From two dirty painters to multiple seven-figure business owners, I'm Karmelo, and I'll be giving you the insider secrets to take your trades business to the next level. From crazy stories to proven strategies, get ready to supercharge your business with us. Welcome to the Dirty Painters Podcast. Welcome back to the Dirty Painters Blueprint for your $1 million cabinet painting shop. In this episode, I'll be going over some sales tips and also figuring out the best efficiency strategy for your refinishing process. Let's get right into it. So we've built our foundation on the last episode. We bought our tools, created an online presence, got some sample doors ready for us, and we're working on our first few leads, or we're going on appointments. So our preparation is done, which sometimes I like to say prep is almost half or even more of the progress to your success. It's time for us to land some jobs and increase our brand, our portfolio, and also our rap sheet within our community. On the first few appointments, when it's just you starting out, I always recommend you go in person so you can get some experience on the field selling in person rather than virtually. It's good to practice your pitch and also interact with your prospects. Before you even head to your appointment, I will tell you, have your detailed standard scope of work written out, your client's information, full name, address, email if you got it, phone number if you got it, and just basically have those written out and ready with you rather than just filling them out there and then it's just awkward for the client to just wait for you to fill stuff out. When it's pre-filled, it's more streamlined, it's much more fluid. Your appointment goes easier that way. And also bring in a nice folder to leave with a proposal inside. Don't just leave a piece of paper. Also bring your color wheel and your sample piece or sample board, sample door, whatever, because that's the most important part of your sales pitch. Arrive 10 to 15 minutes earlier to your appointment. Like we always preach, if you're on time, you're late. Subconsciously, it will show your potential customer that you're punctual and you're always on top of things. You're not running behind and you're not disorganized, most importantly. Shoes off before entering. Again, another thing we always preach, take your damn shoes off, is also another good sign of respecting the residents. You don't want to be tracking in any dirt or dust from your shop, anything from the outside world. We're not selling just yet. We're trying to make some normal small talk at first. The usual, how you're doing? Oh, the weather's been good, terrible recently. Oh, it's nice to have, some sun nowadays. If you notice a sports team flag outside or college flag, ask them if they support them or hey, did you go to college there? Pets are a good way for small talk too. Try not to force it. We're trying to use this to break off the silence that ensues from as soon as you walk in the front door and you get to the kitchen. You don't want to just be walking in an awkward silence. You want to start building sort of a relationship with your client. Begin by asking once you get to the kitchen, what's your vision for your kitchen, or why are you deciding to paint your kitchen? I like to keep a few different phrases so I don't go crazy myself and I feel like I'm repeating myself on each sales appointment. So have a few different starters and let them talk. Try to gather necessary info throughout this question asking process without asking too many. You don't want to make it seem like you're interviewing them on the news or something like that. Just to the point and questions that are important. Are you changing the handles? Are you keeping the same ones? Doing multiple color schemes? Just one color? Set on a color yet? Or would you be needing some help with that? Would you be needing some samples of colors? How soon would you want this done? Or do you have a time frame for your project? Do you use your kitchen regularly, often, or all the time? How high traffic is your kitchen? These are just two variations of the same question that you can ask your clients. And basically those will tell you all the necessary info you need, in my opinion. Those are questions that I always ask, and something else that I will also ask, like, do you have any other contractors doing work for you, like backsplash, countertops, or if they have a plumber, they're putting a new sink? That's also another question you can ask so you can build a time frame for your project. So with those few questions, you can get a good idea of their vision or the scope of work, and you start working out prices in your head whilst they're talking. Try to finish it off with a color asking question so you can transition to the color wheel and look at potential customers with the answer they'll give you. So as soon as I ask that question, I whip out my color wheel, take the strap off, and just start fanning out the colors. And it gets their creative side thinking, oh, okay, so let's see, let's take a look at these colors. We're interacting with one another. You're thinking an off-white. Oh, here, these are the off-whites. This is the most popular one. This was color of the year this year. It will help if you're knowledgeable with those, but even if you're not, just showcasing them and the location of the colors, set colors like the grays, the whites, etc., will really make this interaction go smoothly, and also position yourself as an expert that, oh, this guy knows where his colors are. He's not just fanning or looking at them frantically and trying to look the off-whites that I wanted to see. And then depending on the answer they give you and you look at a few colors, try to tell them like, hey, if you like any of these colors, or if you feel like, hey, I like these colors, but I don't know which one will be best for me, let's do some samples for you. We can do that for you if, we decide to work together. Use that to your advantage as a free complimentary service that you can provide for them, which is at a very low cost for you. A sample cord costs what? Anywhere from $6 to $10, depending on where you buy it from. But to them, it's so much value because you're painting the colors up there for them so they can have a look at, okay, this is what the color is going to look like, not just what's on this piece of paper, because it helps them out. After you've done this color research with them, you can hand off the color wheel to them, and if they want to experiment more, sure. Just explain to them like, hey, I just need to get a quick count of the doors and drawers, if you don't mind, and check the boxes, see if there's any damage, all that stuff. Also, before you start taking account of the doors and the drawers, remind them like, oh, I also brought this sample door for you so you can take a look at my work. This is the type of level of finish you should expect when working with me. So you hand them off the sample door. They can inspect it. They can test the durability. You can let them know. This is not the time where you can let them know about the quirks and features, just like we mentioned on the last episode. I'll tell you when you should do that. As they're inspecting the door or the color wheel, you're taking account of your doors and drawers. Once you get the count of the doors and drawers and you check the box styles, see what kind of necessary prep you need to do, you're working numbers in your head at that time. Write down the information. Let's say there's 20 doors, 10 drawers. Write that down on your scope of work. And then once you're done writing your data, the data which you collected for a project, you ask them, hey, what did you think of the finish? Did you test the durability and all that? They'll say, yeah, it looks really good. Tested it out a little bit. And then this is the point where you tell them, oh, let me show you a few cool features of the product. And most of the 2K polyurethanes that we use, we tell them, hey, it's water repellent. Like here, can I open the sink for you and I can show you what I'm talking about? And then water just beads right off of it. You can start listing if it's chemically resistant, stuff like that. These are the add-on options of the perks that your cabinet coating offers. Once that's done, present the scope of work to them. Verify their info. Hey, this is your full name. This is your address. Or this is a good time if they haven't given you your email yet. Like, what's a good email for you? I can also send this to you to your email so you can have a digital copy of it. This is your phone number, the date and time you want this done. As we discussed previously, you want it done around this time frame. Okay, perfect. And then you go over the scope of work after you verify the info. These are the number of doors and drawers that I counted. This is a standard procedure that we follow. If there's anything add-on, like, I don't know, if a piece of wood missing or something like that, you need to explain to them, like, hey, this is not the standard on my process. So these are going to be add-ons if you're able to do them, or if you want to hire a carpenter for that. So that's the time where you should be explaining, like, hey, for my standard process, this is different. This is going to be extra. And then once you explain the whole thing, the whole process, how you're going to do things, especially in the beginning, if you're on one-man show, you'll explain to them, like, hey, I'll pick up the doors and drawers a little bit earlier, and then get started on the frames, all that stuff. Then you put your pricing down, like, hey, this is how much it's going to cost. These are my payment terms. Usual payment terms we like to do is 50% deposit, 50% due upon completion on all of our cabinet projects, unless they're bigger ones, which we do 50%, 25%, 25%. You can get creative with those, but you're just starting out, let's do the 50-50. And the warranties. And also explain your scheduling. Even if you're not busy, you'll also want to make it seem like you're busy. Like, yeah, I could get to it. Maybe next week, maybe the following week. You don't want to make it seem like, oh yeah, I'm slow. Like I need to work. You're an expert. That's how your typical cabinet sales appointment should go. If you want to look at how you can handle objections or selling techniques that we use, be sure to check out our handling price objections episode, because I don't want to go too much into detail on something that we've already discussed before. And our downselling ethically episode 2 will explain to you a few selling techniques that we use to close right on the spot. For example, cash discounts. The more you do these sales appointments, the more you can deviate/improvise from your standard script, depending on the circumstances, to build trust. For example, this cabinet job that I went and bid last week, it was a big cabinet job, about 80, 90 items, and the previous contractor rolled the doors instead of doing a spray finish. And throughout this whole process, while the clients were living there was dust and overspray everywhere, which I don't get how they got overspray everywhere with them rolling the doors, but it still happened. I deviated a little bit off my script, and I explained to them, hey, we put up plastic barriers. Did they put up plastic barriers and all that stuff? They're like, no. Oh, did they set up ventilation for? They're like, no. So that way I explained the process to them at the same time, and the advantage of working with us, like, hey, this is what we're going to do. And then also this is what we need to do to get rid of the stipple, this roller stipple that your doors have all of a sudden. So ways like that, you can deviate from your script because not every project is going to be the same. So you can adapt to each circumstance with the data given to you from your customer. Again, most cabinet sales appointments, the script is pretty standard. You can get your points across with your standard process. The example I gave you earlier, it's something extra because you have to power sand and all that, which you can add on later. But your standard process, you can explain that to them. That's standard for all your sales appointments. Your color wheel, your color consultation, the count of the doors and drawers, all that stuff, it's pretty standard. But feel free to also deviate so you can seem more natural, so you don't seem like a robot. Now, we've talked about sales tips and how your sales appointment should go. Now let's find out the best efficient strategy depending on your situation. So if you're just starting out, we mentioned in the previous episode and a few minutes earlier, pick up the doors and drawers a few days before you can start the kitchen frame, so that way you can fit your timeline. So your timeline is more consistent. When you're just starting out and you just have a smaller space to finish, like your basement or your garage, then you just let the client know, like, hey, I'm going to pick up the doors and drawers a few days earlier, get a good head start on those. Once I feel like the only thing I have left to do is just spray the fronts, the next day I'm going to come and get working on your kitchen frame so I can meet the timeline. So ideally, the doors and drawers should take you about 2 days. When you're a skilled finisher, just starting out, expect to spend about 3 days, maybe 4 days on finishing the doors and drawers. With the second or third day, when you just have the top coats left on the next day, you can let your customer know, like, hey, I can come the next day since the last step I have to do is just spray the fronts. Always keep the customer in the loop, update them, communicate with them, like, hey, this is the project timeline, we're right on track. Like, hey, if you're having issues, because not everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows. Scenario. I'm just starting out. I picked up the doors on Saturday. I labeled them. I took them back to my shop, which is my basement or my garage. I start working on them. Saturday, I clean them, sand them, and prime them, ideally. Sunday, I'm sanding the primer down so I can let it cure overnight and spray the backs, which means, hey, Monday, I can go and start the kitchen frames. Or if I'm a little bit slower, and Saturday I just clean and sanded, and then Sunday I'm priming, then Monday I'm doing the back sides, and hey, I can start Tuesday. I'll let the client know at least a day in advance, like, hey, I'm going to be there to get started on the kitchen frames. I'll mask everything off. If you could just clear your countertops off, that's the homework I like to ask of the customers to do. So if there's any valuables, or like some people have expensive machines on their countertops, which you don't want to handle, and then all of a sudden they break because it's your fault. So I tell them, like, hey, the only homework you have to do is just clear the countertops off, If the boxes are full, then if you could just empty out, or if you can push things to the back so I can put my my tape and plastic, or if it's glass doors, those need to be emptied out completely. And then your timeline, once you're out there, let's say you're the ideal finisher, and then you go out there on Monday, you prep everything out, you degrease, you sand, you put your prime coats on there, and you let it cure overnight. You come back the next day, which is Tuesday, and then you sand everything down. You do your caulking, your imperfections, spot priming, and also putting your top coat on, which your second day should be shorter than the first because you don't have to do the masking preparation that you did on Monday. You can come back to your shop, or if you really want to work hard and hustle, you can do the fronts on Monday or Tuesday without rushing your timeline or feel like you're behind. And then Wednesday, you can do your cleanup, transportation of the doors back, and installation. Installation will be a little bit tricky in the beginning once you're starting out, depending on what kind of hinges you have going on. What I like to do is I like to put the hinges on the structure first, and then I handle the door by myself, put the hinges and the bores on the doors, and then you need a magnetic bit for your drill so it can help you out, and install the doors that way. Drawers are pretty straightforward. You don't need fancy techniques for that. Also, you need to be going to the gym because some doors can be heavy. Now, that's the beginning. That's the time frame you should follow. If you're not a skilled painter, then just add an extra day for you, where first day you just did the prep and you didn't prime. Then the next day you prime, and then you basically fix all the imperfections and do the caulking. And then third day you go and sand and do your top coats. Now, when you have a bigger space to refinish, you can work on both at the same time. We talked about a timeline on the previous episode where when you can start hiring your first apprentice, when you can start having, let's say, field guys and shop guys. First year will be a little bit tricky to have your shop and your field guys and shop guys. Let's say on the second year, you can start looking at a shop and you actually have a shop. You can start having your on-field crew and then your shop crew to maximize efficiency, because you can work on both at the same time. So you can go in on a Monday, pick up the doors and drawers, leave your field crew there to where they can start prepping everything, maybe priming, and also at the same time your shop crew is degreasing, sanding, priming, same day. So they basically both follow the same timeline. When one thing is being primed, the other thing is being primed at the same time. When one thing is being top coated or prepped for top coat, the other thing is prepped for top coat at the same time. And you can basically 4 to 5 day turnaround, you can turn into a 3 to maybe 4 day turnaround, depending on your guys' level of skills. A standard kitchen of about 30 to 40 items for us with our strategy, with our shop guys and frame guys, it takes us about 2 to 3 days to complete. But that's like when you've perfected your SOPs, and your shop guys and field guys are heavy hitters. They know what to do. They don't need to be told what to do. That's your ideal world. So when your finishing process goes down from 5 days to 3 days, you can have more volume at your shop, because once the field guys are done there on day 3, what are they going to do for the rest of the week? They can go pick up another kitchen and also get started on the frames of the next kitchen. So you can increase your volume. You can go to 2 kitchens a week, bringing you up to, depending on how much you're pricing them out and how big they are, you can start creeping in closer to that $20,000 a week goal to hit for your $1 million cabinet painting shop. Then you can start adding more racks. If you're doing more volume, like smaller kitchens, but higher volume, you can add 3 to 4 racks to your shop and have 1 to 2 field crews cranking out kitchen frames. And if it's still you and a helper, or if you have a master sprayer and a helper doing doors, that's when you can start meeting your $20,000 a week minimum as well to become a $1 million cabinet painting shop. So those are a few efficiency strategies that you can look for. There's another one in the very beginning which you can use if you're just going solo, where you can do the doors and the drawers at the customer's house. I mean, if you're living in an apartment and you don't have the money to swing to rent a shop, that's going to be your avenue on how you're going to finish your doors and drawers. If the customer is a little bit more understanding, then you can cut back a little bit on your pricing because you can't be charging $150, $200 an item and doing the refinishing at their house until you get the hang of it. If you do it at their house, the finishing process should take about 5 to 6 days again, because you can be working after hours because it's their house. Whereas if you have your basement, your garage, or shop, you can always work after hours spraying doors. These are a few of the efficiency strategies that I would recommend for you, depending on which stage of your business you're at right now or in the future, to use. Going back to the sales, obviously when you get bigger, you won't have as much time to go on the appointments as you do in the beginning because you're not as busy and you have the time in the world, all the time in the world. So virtual selling, you can start using those questions and also pre-screening a few of your leads that way, because some of them, they might be window shoppers or tire kickers. When you reach to a point where, okay, getting the experience is good, but I wish I wouldn't have driven an hour there or half an hour there, spending another half hour to an hour there, and then driving back for them to tell me that their budget was $1,500. So that's good. When you reach to a point where you're busy, you can weed out those types of leads so you can focus on the ones that are ready to hire or almost ready to close. We discussed about efficiency strategies, but also as you grow, you can increase your efficiency, but you also need to be doing your quality control, because you don't want to compromise quality for you to meet your timelines. Customers will appreciate more if you're bringing them a quality product. Even if you're having to push back a project by a day or two, customers will appreciate that, hey, he's not rushing it. He doesn't want to be efficient, but he wants to make sure that what I'm getting is quality. Having open lines of communication and being honest and transparent with your customer, they would appreciate that way more than you just bringing the doors a day or two earlier. And if they notice something, they're like, oh, what about this? And then you have to take it back to your shop. You just feel like you're very disorganized and you don't do your quality control before you send your items out to your installation. Also, when transitioning from a smaller work area to a bigger refinishing area, let's say when you buy your first shop, you need to optimize the environment for your refinishing needs. What we have in our shop: exhaust fans, bigger fans for drying time, spray booths. These are things you need to buy when you rent out your first shop so you can eliminate cross-contamination, whether it be dust particles when you're sanding, or if your environment is not ideal, you can use the fans to turn the temperature down, or the humidity if you're in like Florida, or any of that stuff. You need to be optimizing your environment, because some of these products, they can be a little bit finicky or volatile or delicate. They need optimal conditions for them to perform at their peak. This will wrap up this episode of the Dirty Painters podcast. And guys, we can get more in depth with the cabinet refinishing process. You could just DM me, and then I'll give you a copy of our ebook so you can take a look at the steps, the troubleshooting errors that you might face, and how to fix those. Everything will be written out in detail on those. Just DM me, and I'll be more than happy to help you out and send you a copy of the ebook, cabinet refinishing ebook, The Olympian Way. Be sure to follow us on our business on Instagram at Olympian Painting, and also our personal accounts, Olympian_Redion and Olympian_Karmelo, for more content. And keep up with our episodes on the Dirty Painters podcast. If you like this episode and you would want to see more styles of episode like this, like master classes with either me or Redion, be sure to DM us and let us know like any ideas on topics that you want us to talk about. Until next time, I'm Karmelo, signing off from the Dirty Painters podcast.